Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. Man, we have a lot to talk about as far as Carmelo Anthony and everything that has happened to him. And it is very apparent that they rigged the entire trial. And I think many people see it, but the ones that hate us are, of course, going to agree with the courts and the all white jury and all that stuff. Y'all been doing that forever. Y'all been doing the all white jury thing forever. And we know what they're for. So here's what got me. There are a couple of things in the trial. Um, I notice all of the witnesses seems to be friends with those twin boys. And you really didn't see no friends of Carmelo's. Now they tried to say that Latino teenager, but he was really leaning towards those twins. So I really don't think if he was a friend, he was not much of one. And I just don't see how you can convict someone and you never showed the video evidence of what happened that day. It was not shown in court. It was not put out in public because it's going to show you that those twins started everything. They did not want that seen. But I think many of them know this is going to come back and haunt them. That's why this judge got up and quit. He's quitting because when everything finally does come out, and I believe it will, he's afraid he's going to be removed from the bench. Rather than sit around and wait to see if it happens, he is getting out now. He's leaving. And the way the father had dove all on social media, that's because he was in on it too. And so was the defense. And I heard the defense and defense and prosecution, those attorneys, they said worked together before in the past. So they go way back. They knew each other from many years ago. And that's a conflict of interest right there. It is. And then what sent up an alarm was when Jeff Metcalf was being his little racist ass on a video. And he said, well, y'all complain. Why was it an all white jury? Because black people wrote down you can't convict a black person. Now, where did you get that information from? So who shared it with you? The judge or the prosecution? How do you know what people wrote down, Jeff Metcalf, unless you were tipped off about it? And who tipped you off? You're not supposed to know what those jurors write down. But that raised the flag. And I noticed nobody was talking about that. How does he know what people wrote when jury selection was being made and how they answered questions? And I believe that's made up, but for some reason, I think somebody on the inside told Jeff Metcalf about what was going down, and they were going to ultimately, and I believe it was already decided that it was going to be an all-white jury. I do. I think before the trial began, it was already determined they were going to have an all-white jury. I believe Jeff Metcalf knew everything about the potential black jurors because someone from the prosecutor's office or the prosecutor himself told Jeff Metcalf everything. Because I just thought it was funny how he brought that up. That is not information usually families are privy to. That's really the court's information. It has nothing to do with Jeff Metcalf. So I found that odd, and I think that sent up a red flag One thing about a racist, they blab a lot. They will tell all. They'll tell everything. They can't help themselves. Look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump can't keep nothing to himself. He can't wait to get in public, get on camera, and blab everything he knows. That's usually how most of these races are. And Austin is in that graveyard because he had a parent that groomed him to be a racist, groomed him to believe he was entitled and he could walk all over any black person he want. And another thing that I found out that was kept out of the trial, those cheerleaders at the school, they complained about those twins. The cheerleaders were saying they were harassed. Yes, the cheerleading squad of the school said they were harassed by those twins. And that never came out during the trial. So anything those twins did, they made sure it never got revealed. But the whole cheerleading squad complained about those twins. Said they were harassing them and saying all kinds of sexual things to them. And I think it was one of them even admitted to being bisexual, one of those twins. But they also said those cheerleaders were scared. They were scared to have their names out there. And just judging from the way that town is, I can understand. Frisco seems to be a very white supremacist place in Texas. So what I started thinking about is, if we're going to do anything, we need to put the pressure on and demand the video be released. The judge and the prosecution and Jeff Metcalf should not be allowed to conceal the video. That video needs to be out here for everybody to see. They don't want it shown because those twins were in the wrong. It is not Karmelo that should be in jail, but Hunter Metcalf, the other twin, his ass should be sitting in that jail. He should be in jail. All right. And you notice that the twin did not testify. Karmelo did not testify. They did everything they could to keep everything under wrap and just convict Karmelo. That was number one, a very racist and a very weak court case. The court case, it was weak. Just everything that went on. He did not want, the judge immediately did not want any cameras in the courtroom. You know what I mean? That you can clearly, it is obvious everything was rigged. Everything was rigged. So y'all, I'm going to go ahead. Let me share my screen. Okay, so before we get started, remember I have a Juneteenth sale, 45% off, and the sale will end 11:59 on the 21st. So grab up your hair products. The 45% off is on Etsy, Shopify, and TikTok Shop. Okay. I mean, I don't know what the judge is running for now. You sat your butt up there and you took part in rigging a trial against a child, because he was still underage at the time when this happened. Y'all railroaded him. But it just goes to show you, y'all, how historically, how they have done our people in court. When they have one of us in court, it's not about following the rules. It's not about following the law. It's all about doing whatever they need to do to put you behind bars. And it also shows you a good example of why so many of our men are exonerated, because they're getting railroaded, just like this case, in court on a regular basis. Our people are being railroaded up in these courthouses all around the country. And this case just showed you how it's done. That's all they did. They just really revealed how it's done. All right, y'all. Thank you for the ones.
Secret Service Sam here for the Karmelo Anthony trial update. And people are talking about Judge Roach is retiring. Now, he was a judge starting in 2007, but he is now retiring. Now, people think it's because allegedly he is scared that he is going to get disbarred, because a lot of people are saying that this whole Karmelo Anthony trial was a bust, that he wanted to get out. He wanted to make sure he had a conviction so he could retire. But people are saying that he could be disbarred as a judge, and that once the truth comes out about this case, because look, they're not letting people view the video. His own attorneys seem to have sabotaged his case. The defense, the all-white jury, people are very suspicious of what happened in this case, as we've been reporting. And people are saying he didn't allow the proper evidence to be submitted. A lot of the witnesses were just friends of the other side. So it's all very suspicious. Karmelo never took the stand. They didn't allow the video that some people saw to be evidence inside the courtroom. They only showed a blurry video. What do you guys think? I will keep you updated on this. Do you think Karmelo got a fair trial? Listen, I will be here to expose the truth behind the headlines on the front lines. Do you think Judge Roach is sus? Let me know in the comments. Secret Service Sam out, Sam Semper, President of the world.
So Judge John Roach Jr. going out and giving an interview and talking about the Karmelo Anthony case after the case is a problem. I think it's a problem because it shows that he just has some judgment issues, no pun intended. He shouldn't be talking about a case, even if it's after the case. You look at what happened with the Murdaugh case in South Carolina and how that case got thrown out because the clerk of court, who didn't even make any type of judicial rulings, she wrote a book about it. And so that was the very basis that gave the Murdaugh person a new trial as a result of that. So that's just the potential relationship and the appearance of impropriety, all that. I think that is probably, based on what we know, the weaker of the two major grounds that I see for appeal right now. I think there are a lot of evidentiary issues that I'm not privy to, but I think the jury composition is deeply problematic. The judge had some control over that with respect to how to guide the voir dire and how it was conducted. I think that there are major issues with that. And I think the fact that there were no black jurors is a major problem. From a fairness standpoint, the fact that the prosecutor excluded the three jurors, and he did so on the grounds that they were teachers, yet allowed a white teacher, someone who was similarly situated except a different race, to sit. So that is a major problem. But the judge going out, giving the interviews, does not help the situation for the verdict standing. I think there's a decent chance, and it's always hard to tell, it depends on the appellate panel, that the case will get sent back for a new trial in a larger place, a place that has jurors of a jury of the peers of the person who was convicted. And I think that, that's only fair. Quite frankly, I don't think it was a fair trial. I don't think it was a jury of Karmelo Anthony's peers at all. And I think that that's a problem with the prosecution's case and makes it susceptible to being challenged on appeal.
Karmelo Anthony, judge speaks.
Sizes and colors and all that. And so that was normal for me. What wasn't normal for me is to have those witnesses be intimidated by things being said on social media, because those young people rely on social media more than I certainly do. And so that sure impacted me to make sure that they did not change their testimony. They were willing to come in and tell the truth without fear.
Now, this is the judge speaking, y'all. He don't even sound like a judge, but that'll have to be a whole different live. But his, I tell you what, his last name is Roach. He sure is living up to his name, isn't he? He's living up to his name. But this is the judge, and he did an interview, and he wants you to believe everything was fair, everything was the way it should. He's full of crap, and he knows it too. That's why he got his ass up and retired immediately. And everything just looks shady in this whole case. But we are talking about the dirty South. And, like I said, y'all, we can go through history and see countless cases of our people being railroaded up in these courts. And this judge, along with many, he's just an offspring of those folks that did this to our folks a century ago. And as you can see, no matter how much y'all claim things have changed, just like in this case, you always prove it remains the same. Your ass ain't changed that damn much. Let's be for real.
Being doxxed or swatted and stuff. And so I took every precaution that I could, consistent with the law, to make that happen.
I know Steve brought it up to you, and I know both sides probably brought it up as well.
Karmelo Anthony's case seems to be getting better and better every day. You see, your boy, Judge Roach, it seems as though the apple don't fall far from the tree. Judge Roach, that resided over Karmelo Anthony's case, seemed to be a junior. And guess who senior was? Yeah. He worked for a Collin County District Attorney's Office. Roach Senior. Come to the front. We need y'all roaches up here. Let's talk about it. Seems as though Karmelo Anthony's Judge John Roach Jr.'s daddy, Attorney John Roach Sr., along with Collin County District Attorney Milner and Assistant District Attorney Greg Davis, and at that time, Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott. Sound familiar? Yeah, Greg Abbott. We're all in cahoots together to bring down the new seating judge, Judge Suzanne Wooten. Now let's get into it. I'm going to take it straight from the legal document. Read it to you. In March 2008, Wooten defeated Judge Charles Sandoval in the Republican primary election for the seat on the 380th District Court in Collin County, Texas. She went on to win in the general election and took the bench in January 2009. The day after the primary, Sandoval went to Collin County District Attorney's office and demanded that the office investigate Wooten and find a crime. Sounds like Karmelo's case, huh? Yeah, let's talk about it. It goes on to say, Collin County District Attorney's Office obliged and began investigating Wooten's alleged misbehavior without the assistance of any law enforcement entity. Christopher Milner, the head of Collin County District Attorney's Special Crimes Unit, led the investigation. John Roach Sr., as district attorney, oversaw Collin County District Attorney's Office during the relevant period. Collin County's District Attorney's Office investigation proceeded on the general theory that Wooten received bribes from two campaign contributors, David and Stancy Carey. The bribes were made through Wooten's media consultant, James Spencer. Collin County District Attorney's Office investigated and eventually prosecuted her, even though it knew her actions were not criminal. Collin County District Attorney wanted Wooten to leave the bench because it disagreed with her rulings in some criminal cases. Collin County was not the only office involved in the investigation. Relatively soon after the investigation began, Milner requested assistance from the office of the then Texas Attorney General, Greg Abbott. Specifically, Milner asked for help from Assistant Attorney General Harry White because White had experience prosecuting election law violations. White became involved in the investigation in December 2008, operating under the authority of the Collin County District Attorney Ann Roach, that senior. He participated initially as a special assistant district attorney, was deputized as such in September 2009. They did a special deputize. They deputized this man to investigate this woman, and was eventually appointed attorney pro tem for the investigation in July 2010. As part of the investigation, several grand juries were convened. The first grand jury subpoena was issued September 2008, months before Wooten took the bench in January 2009. Multiple subpoenas for documents issued that fall. The following year, Milner began issuing grand jury subpoenas for various people connected with Wooten's campaign. Milner grand jury shopped, meaning he avoided presenting Wooten's criminal case to a grand jury so that he could continue using the grand juries to investigate her. The third grand jury convened in the fall of 2009, wrote the presiding district judge and explained that they felt the case against Judge Wooten was unnecessary and a waste of taxpayers' dollars, and that no crime had been committed. Ultimately, they did convict her. She was charged. After all this criminal stuff they had going on, she was eventually charged, she and her constituents. All in all, they ended up appealing it to the Court of Criminal Appeals, and it was overturned. Her conviction was overturned, and they got in trouble, and the Collin County ended up having to pay her $600,000. This is the type of corruption that seems to be going on in Collin County. And unfortunately, Karmelo Anthony's case is caught up in the same bullshit. Well, here's proof. The apple don't fall far from the tree. Collin County's corruption will soon come to an end. Drop down in the comments how you feel about Karmelo Anthony's case now.
At this point, I think Karmelo, his case, and any case this Judge Roach Jr. handled should all be opened back up and investigated. I wonder how many Black people he railroaded up in that court. I know damn well Karmelo is not the only one. I would bet every dime in my wallet Karmelo is not the only one that got railroaded by this judge. I would like to see all the cases this man handled to be reopened up and investigated, because, you know, he didn't just do dirt on one case. He probably did dirt on every single one. That's usually how these folks operate. And you can see when you give certain people power, they abuse it. That's all this is.
Now that you know this new information. And don't forget to like, share, and follow me for more controversial topics.
It's been a minute. I just wanted to just talk to you for a minute, give you a little word on the street, Karmelo Anthony case. See, when I was talking, everybody was talking and yakking. So what I said was, somebody gonna lose their jobs. All I heard was, ain't nobody gonna lose their job, ain't nobody gonna lose their jobs. No. Retiring and quitting before you get fired is pretty much the same thing. You just trying to do it before they get to you. You know you wrong, Roach. You a cockroach. That Judge Cockroach is wrong. And he's trying to retire before everything hits the fan. But let me tell you something. Yeah, you already been reported to the Bar Association. I already know you got mad calls already.
Hi, friends. I'm attorney Carlos Moore. I'm principal of the Carlos Moore Law Group. I also had the privilege of serving as a city judge in Mississippi for over 6.5 years. I served as the 79th president of the National Bar Association from 2021 to 2022. And I'm currently living in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm running for Congress to serve Georgia's 13th congressional district. I come to you this morning with a heavy heart. I've been really disturbed since Karmelo Anthony was convicted of first-degree murder over in Collins County, Texas, and sentenced to 35 years for killing Austin Metcalf. Now, while Austin Metcalf deserves to be alive, I do not believe that that Karmelo Anthony should have been convicted of first-degree murder. I do not believe that there was premeditation, and I do believe that he had a self-defense claim that was not adequately explored by his defense team. And I do believe at the most that this should have been a manslaughter conviction, if anything, and definitely not a murder conviction, and definitely not first-degree murder by any stretch of the imagination. This man was assaulted by Austin Metcalf and defended himself. And he may have overreacted. He may have had sudden passion, but that is not murder. That would be more akin to manslaughter if the jury did not believe it was self-defense. Time and time again, if the roles were reversed, I do believe that a white young man that would have killed a black young man would have been acquitted, even with the self-defense claim, similar to what Karmelo Anthony made. And I've been very disturbed. I've been almost in a rage, but I'm trying to channel my rage and my anger and really look at the criminal justice system to see if race does in fact play a part in decisions that's made by judges and juries across America. I started practicing in 2002. So for nearly a quarter of a century, I've been a practicing attorney. And 20 of those years, I have been doing civil rights cases. And so I look back at some of the cases I've handled personally. Back in 2006, there was a young man who hired me by the name of James Marshall. He was accosted by a cop in Greenwood, Mississippi, a cop by the name of Casey Wiggins. Casey pulled a gun on this unarmed young black man at Greenwood High School, not once, but twice. It was caught on video, and Mr. Marshall hired me to pursue a civil claim, and we were successful in that claim. What bothers me about that case is that Casey Wiggins, never served time. He was never arrested or convicted for anything. That was aggravated assault, if you ask me, and he got away with it, never served time. He was allowed to resign from his position with the Greenwood Police Department and went on with his life. after assaulting a black young man. No justice there in the criminal system for a white cop who pulled a gun not once but twice on a black boy. You take it further, 10 years later in 2016, I represented Joshua Blunt. Joshua Blunt was a young man who was at work when he forgot to take his 8-month-old child to her grandmother. He left the child in a hot car. In the car, the heat of the car unfortunately killed the child. And you can his reaction when he learned that the child was dead was caught on video, and he was hysterical. He had just simply forgotten and left his child in a hot car. And shortly after the child was found, Joshua Blunt was charged with second-degree murder. Mind you, 100 miles south of Grenada, Mississippi, where this happened, over in Madison, Mississippi, a white lady had done something similar, and she was never arrested or charged with any crime, never indicted. But here you have Joshua Blunt, a black young man who did something similar, who was charged with second-degree murder and then subsequently indicted for manslaughter. And he was facing life in prison on the second-degree murder charge, and up to 20 years in prison if he was convicted of manslaughter. So we fought tooth and nail to keep him out of prison. We did keep him out of prison. He didn't have to serve any time in prison for this unfortunate incident, but he did plead to culpable negligence manslaughter and had to go through the criminal justice system. So while the white lady, Amy Bryant, who left her 2-year-old in a hot car, and that 2-year-old died, she never was indicted or had to serve any time or have a felony on her record. My client ultimately has a felony on his record, but did not do it in prison time. Same offense, 2 different outcomes. You tell me, did race have anything to do with it? Remember, we were in Mississippi. Dominique Clayton, a few years later, over.
Okay. All right. He's kind of veering off to other things, but I want to stay on Karmelo Anthony. And the bottom line is, I sure hope his parents, because I heard they're getting a lot of help. A lot of celebrities are stepping up and donating. And I hope they get a black defense team and get him out on the appeal, because the way they did this in court, you know darn well the whole thing was sabotage from the beginning. And Karmelo should not be sitting in, any kind of prison after having a rigged case against him. No, what happened to him is not the norm in court at all. And they want you to believe that. And how you going to give him a 35-year sentence and you showed no evidence of what happened, on that day in the stadium, and y'all have the video, but you're refusing to show it. You wouldn't show it to the courts, and you won't show it to the public. In a normal world, the feds should have stepped in on this one because it is clear racism. But because we are dealing with Donald Trump's DOJ, he ain't going to do nothing. Donald Trump don't care if it is racist. He's not going to do anything, and he's not going to let his DOJ do anything. And plus, let's be real. The DOJ has never stepped out on our behalf in its history. The DOJ does not have our back at all. And it doesn't matter if it's a Democratic DOJ or a Republican DOJ. They do not try to make sure we get a fair shot in court. They do absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter what president is in office. It's always the same. Plain and simple. They have no reputation for helping anybody in our community. The DOJ is literally useless. And look at how they've handled the Epstein files. Okay, it says it all. So y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Zachariah Williams, thank you so much for the super sticker and your support for my channel. So I'm going to go ahead and conclude, y'all. All I can say is, everything in the dark will come to light. This is all going to blow up and everything's going to come out. That judge retired and ran out of there abruptly because he knows this case is going to be appealed. And on the appeal, he knows it's a great chance Karmelo will be set free. So he's getting out of Dodge now before everything goes down. And plus, he fears, and I believe he fears being removed from the bench. He doesn't want to go through that public humiliation. And that's another reason why he pretty much quit. So, y'all, have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for being here. And my next live is something kind of funny. Donald Trump called himself trying to fix the reflecting pool there in Washington, D.C. Well, when I tell you everything has gone wrong, everything absolutely has gone wrong. First, he wanted the pool pay. Now, he put up 14 million US taxpayer dollars to upgrade the reflecting pool. He wanted the pool painted blue so it would look like the water in the Caribbean. Well, they painted it blue, and the next day, green algae was in the entire reflecting pool. It gets worse. Donald Trump suggested that they pour peroxide in the reflecting pool to kill the green algae. Well, the algae lived, y'all, and the paint, the blue paint, came off, and it's now floating in the water along with the green algae. So all the paint he put in there to make it look like the Caribbean, all the paint is now floating around in the reflecting pool. So, despite the fact that these folks claim they got high IQs, it is always demonstrated that they don't have one at all. I will see you at 3:45. Shalom, family.